This is Phantom Electric Ghost. We're live on the air with Dr. Elliot Justin. We're going to talk about TechRing. You're the founder of FirmTech,
That's
and
right.
yeah, it's great to have you here today. We love to talk to people who are creative, and that means entrepreneurs, not just musicians and writers and filmmakers. We talk to all types of people like that, but we in this space, entrepreneurs are creators as well. So we want to welcome you to the Phantom Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing today?
Excellent. It's great to be here.
So you are a doctor and you're an inventor as well, because you invented this technology, correct?
Well, the TechRing is the world's first monitor of health of the penis, every guy's favorite organ, even more important than their brain. So, yeah, and we have just recently invented, we call it the Clitique. It's the world's first monitor of health of the clitoris, and
Hmm.
that'll be available for research purposes at the end of this year and for commercialization next year.
That's awesome. So what made you want to look into sexual wellness?
Well, I've always been really interested in sex, haven't you? I think I'm probably an outlier, though. I don't know many doctors, I don't know many people whose mothers took them to urologists when they were a teenager twice because she was worried that I wouldn't get into college because I was masturbating so much. I thought it was normal. And mom, here I am right now. When I live in Montana, and I ride horses, and sometimes I have the illusion that I'm a centaur, that I'm one with my horse. And
Hmm.
that could be a dangerous illusion, kind of like being one with your motorcycle. So several years ago, I broke 6 ribs and 6 vertebrae. Some do-gooder had cut a tree that had fallen over the trail, so you could walk underneath it, but you couldn't ride a horse underneath it if you're going 35 miles per hour because horses don't stop on a dime.
Oh
So
no.
fortunately, I did not break my spinal cord. Um, uh, but that got me interested in what's been done to rehabilitate men or women who have had a spinal injury, specifically to rehabilitate their sexual function. Because if
Hmm.
we could do that, we could also come up with a way of helping people to have longer lives of lovemaking and not have dysfunction. So there were 6 papers in the medical literature, and I would put the literature in quotes because it always amuses me that we refer to the research as literature because literature is mostly fiction, and most of the medical scientific research, unfortunately, as everyone should have realized after COVID, is not reproducible. Anyway, there were 6 papers saying that they're able to neuromodulate human sexuality. Now, when we talk about neuromodulation, I'll put it into layman's terms. Think about cardiac pacemaking. Most people know what that is. We're basically putting an electrode inside the heart with a battery pack to control the nerves that control the heart. And we can actually keep the heart beating after you're dead. So imagine being able to do that for human sexuality. Imagine how powerful that would be, especially with an aging population, especially with a population where 50% of men over the age of 50 report having erectile dysfunction, and it's even higher in women. So there are 2 nerves, the pudendal nerve and the cavernous nerve, that are responsible for uh, arousal and climax in men and women. Everyone's 2 favorite nerves that no one's ever heard about, and they come out underneath the pubic bone. They go into the penis and the clitoris. So I first thought I'd try it out on some animals. So I got together with a veterinary surgeon in California. We took 2 rams, male sheep, and identified the pudendal and cavernous nerve and implanted an electrode. And we got weak erection. We did get good ejaculation, but we also got defecation and urination. So it wasn't quite bedroom friendly unless you're really kinky. And maybe in Sydney, Australia, some
Yeah,
parts of New York City or LA or San Francisco, this would
yeah.
be a great
Some
idea.
people might, yeah, might
Yeah,
like that.
but not for the general population. So, but so I ordinarily what you would do in that case is you'd go out and raise some money. You go to the Bay Area or LA or New York, and you raise $15-20 million, and then you would go down to Brazil or Nigeria and try this out on 25 men with bad erectile dysfunction. I thought, before I do that, let's try this out on me. So I had
Mm.
a friend who was a urology surgeon, University of California, San Francisco, and I went to his clinic in San Jose, and we implanted. He and another doctor implanted an electrode by my cavernous nerve, pudendal nerves, and we tried all sorts of amplitudes and frequencies and even a little bit of voltage changes, and I felt nothing. And I don't have ED, so that was interesting because I don't think we actually understand the neurophysiology of human sexuality. Everything at some point, the body's electricity. We should be able to control it if it's that simple. If my wife were here and you asked her, what's going on? This is a mystery. She would say, it's Aphrodite, Elliot. Don't you get it? I kind of like that as a metaphor, but I think eventually we'll figure it out. Anyway, I called this Project O, and I tried to get it for obvious reasons. And I tried to get this published, but negative studies almost never get published. But several years later, a professor of urology at the University of Utah heard about this from a colleague with whom I was working on another project, and said, "Gee, I want to work with this Dr. Justin. He sounds like the right guy." Because what did he want to do? He wanted to come up with a way of counting the number of nocturnal erections that men have, because they're a leading indicator of their cardiovascular and sexual health. And when he said to me, my response was kind of like a WTF, like, really, what are you talking about? I mean, is that true? I never heard of it. I don't think most doctors know about that. And I certainly don't think most people don't know about that. But to have that leading indicator of cardiovascular and sexual health through looking at men's nocturnal erections, that would be a powerful vital sign. One that men care a lot more about than, gee, well, how's my blood pressure? Or how many steps I took yesterday? Or I gained a pound. So that was about 4 years ago. And that's how I got involved.
It's kind of like a sleep study, how people use their wearables to do sleep studies, like their watches and stuff.
Well, lots of thoughts right now. I want to jump in, but later on, I want to talk. Every episode of REM sleep, quality sleep, that your smart watch or smart ring is telling you about, is accompanied by an erection, and the erection is actually more accurate determinant of what's going on than, because you can't fake an erection. But whereas your Aura, your Whoop, these peripheral devices, they're measuring your pulse and they have an accelerometer built into them, motion detector. So during REM sleep, you're kind of comatose. You don't move at all, and your pulse slows down. And then this device says, well, that's when you're having quality sleep. But you just might not be moving. You actually could be awake.
You could fake it. You're not moving. You can fake it out.
Yeah. So I don't. So that's. But whereas it's hard to fake an erection when you're, So there's a study right now going on at Baylor University comparing or simultaneously using our device, the TechRing, and Whoop, which is a wearable, a good wearable, and basically showing that we're counting the same amount of quality sleep that they're doing.
Oh, wow.
And the previous way of counting nocturnal erections used a device called the Regiscan, and this is like something Dr. Frankenstein would attach to your dick. It's got electrodes that kind of wrap around,
like really too much,
and wires and boxes, and so you have to kind of lie still. You can't really move, and you can't wear it while having sex. So our device not only counts the number of nocturnal erections that are our leading indicator of your cardiovascular sexual health, measures the duration of firmness, but it also can be worn during sex. So it measures the duration of firmness of your penis during sex, and it's also an erection ring, meaning that it helps sustain, prolong, intensify your performance. And if you had told me, Phantom, 4 years ago, hey, Dr. Justin, you're going to spend the rest of your medical life, your career, talking about erection rings, I would have said, "What are you talking about, man? I don't need that." Because like most guys, my attitude at that time towards erection ring was, hey, these are these uncomfortable hard plastic O-rings, like a gasket you can buy in a sex toy store, and they pinch and they're uncomfortable. They're not actually not that safe either. And I was like, hey, I don't need that. But now I realize it's not about need; it's about want. Do men want data about their sexual health? Duh. Yes.
Well, they want to know what's going on, and now you actually have a more like scientifically valid way to actually measure it.
Yeah, and also, do you want to optimize your performance and pleasure? Well, of course we do.
Yeah, because you're actually measuring something that most of these things probably weren't measuring during sex. They were measuring like other aspects.
Well, there's nothing before this. There's been nothing before the TechRing. There's been no way of measuring blood flow in the penis during sex.
So now you're getting data that you would have never had.
Right. So this is like an electrocardiogram for your dick, basically.
Yeah.
and more like a stress test, actually, because we not only we're actually, while you're performing, we're measuring you, and that's what a stress test is doing, as opposed to just being.
Yeah, you're actually, and that's really critical, because normally, like, you have to go to the doctor to do a stress test and go through all that. in a
Correct.
facility. This
Yeah.
is actually in your home
In
and actually
privacy, right,
real life.
under real life
Real,
circumstances. So, the urologists, they can do a Doppler, an echo test of your blood flow in your penis in their office. But I don't know about you, Phantom, but when a man as handsome as you approaches me with hair in the back of their hands and snaps on a rubber glove with a metal tube with some cold gel and puts it on my dick, that is not real life.
that's not
So
real life. That's not the real situation.
yeah,
Yeah, I think. Yeah, so you're actually getting really good data, and
we've got,
and from that data, you're just enhancing like your tech from the data. You
well, we have an app. We're in the Google and Apple stores. We have documented as of last week 2,336,000 erections on 4,600 men.
that's a good.
This is the world's largest dick database, and some important discoveries have been made about men's sexual health.
Wow, are you writing papers about that, or are you
Well,
just keeping it internal?
we have other people write the papers. So
Mhm,
we don't have, this company was founded with my money, uh, and I have money enough to make it happen. I mean, we've sold close to 30,000 products so far, but I don't have the money to fund, big corporate studies. So the studies that are
mm,
being done with us are being done independently, and they're being done by well-renowned researchers. I mean, we're at
mhm.
this research at the University of Utah, Baylor University, Morrison Kettering, several sites in overseas, and the big discovery is that most men who identify as having ED or have been diagnosed having ED don't have ED. They got a problem, and they're just getting older. So here's what's here's the problem. The fundamental problem is the International Society of Sexual Medicine has misdefined erectile dysfunction. I'll get to that in 1 second.
Mm.
Then once you misdefine something, though, um, that then becomes sort of accepted, and doctors then go where they can make money,
You're
and
selling
also and
selling
also
back
where
selling
and also where
pharmacy.
what the conventional wisdom tells them what to do. So here it is. Here's the first clause of the definition: erectile dysfunction. Inability to get an erection or difficulty getting it up. Well, that's dysfunction. That's 12 to 13% of men who identify as having ED. So that's the first clause. So these are guys who aren't getting enough blood to their penis. So either the
Mhm.
heart's not pumping enough blood, they have angina, they have a heart attack, they have congestive heart failure, they have myocarditis, they have some condition so the pump is not working well. And then there are the arteries that come out of the heart, the pipes. They can be insufficient. They can be, due to diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, they're narrowing. And often the heart problem is a combination of the arterial problem. And the end result is difficulty getting an erection. Well, that's about 12 to 13% of men. And that's frankly where the data, our data, is really valuable, because our data can identify that problem before it becomes a really big
A
problem that's
big
hard to
problem.
address. Because we live in this incredible age of healthcare wearables, smartwatches, smart rings, et cetera. But when it comes to sexual health, to our device, nothing. We
Nothing.
are
Yeah.
all men, women too, are all on the road from erectile fitness to erectile dysfunction. We all would like to know where we are in that road, because we want to avoid crashes or breakdowns. We want signals. I don't know where you are in the United States. I'm in Montana, but if I were to drive to your house, I wouldn't black out my dashboard, and then set off on a drive. We have no dashboard. So what we're doing is giving men and their doctors and healthcare providers a dashboard about their sexual health. And ideally, of course, as with your car dashboard, you want to say, oh, gee, there's the old light flashing. Maybe I need to pay attention to my engine, to
Yeah.
what's
So you
my
get yeah,
fuel, whatever. Yep.
engine light, yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
that's go ahead.
no, it's just interesting that, a lot of people don't know where they are. Like, so if you have the data, then you at least know where your current state is, so that you can go from there, rather
Yeah.
than the people just going and throwing pharmaceuticals at things.
Well, that's so here we have these guys, for these 12, 30% of men who struggle to get it up. And what do? To your point, they just go online and get pills because they're embarrassed or ashamed to talk about this. They don't want to think about the fact they might have a heart problem. One of the most famous urologists, andrologists in the United States, maybe the world, is Dr. Mohit Khera, Khera. He's at Baylor University. He utilized our technology in his practice, and he does research with it. He said recently, Viagra is Vicodin. Now, what do you mean by that? he meant that it could be masking a significant problem. And for doctors just to pass out pills when they could get data when they is wrong.
It's not getting the
So
root cause, right?
yeah,
You're papering over the root cause.
but bear in mind that's only 12 to 30% of men, and those men, of course, if their doctor even bothers to do a cardiovascular workup, and their doctors should, and doctors often don't do that. The doctors just write for pills. The vast majority of doctors just write for pills. But these men, especially if a man is having less than 3 to 5 nocturnal erections per night, utilizing our data, you can now assess that. We've had 3 men that were aware of cardiac catheterizations because their data was so poor.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys, for these guys to just take pills is a mistake because you could have heart failure. And the doctors, of course, some of the doctors recognize that the penis is the canary in the coal mine of cardiovascular disease. So they will work it up because that's where the money is. And we know how to do it. We can get imaging tests to assess your heart, echoes, electrocardiograms. We can do interventional radiology studies to assess your arteries. So if a man, I have no problem with some 25-year-old guy who's, dating on Hinge using this, and you can't get it up a couple of times with someone he's never met before. Guys, by the way, don't expect to always succeed in getting it up with strangers. But that's okay. You want to get some pills because it makes you more confident, pull more blood in, fine. But for guys over the age of 45, 50, who are at risk for cardiovascular disease or
Yeah, it's
metabolic
more of
disease.
a potential like life health issue just because of aging,
Exactly.
and maybe because they have a very sedentary lifestyle.
Well,
that people are
that certainly makes it worse. I mean, if you're a guy and you get winded after a few thrusts and you got to lie on your back, that's embarrassing. Anyway, so getting back to the definition, though, the first half is, and this is important, the guys who struggle to get it up or can't get it up. And I don't mean because you're drunk. I mean because this is a consistent, problem, especially if you can't get up with yourself. That could be a cardiovascular or metabolic problem. But the vast majority of men, the second clause is get it up and then lose it. Difficulty maintaining erection. Well, that's all men. That's all men as they get older. None of us function the way we did when we were 15 or 20 or 25. I mean, when you're 20, you can have sex with strangers. You probably have sex with a goat.
It's automatic.
It's automatic, right? But by the time you're 30, and a lot of guys don't understand this, and women don't understand too. By the time you're 30, there are trust issues. Maybe you actually should date a couple of times before sleeping with someone.
Or it's like psychological, sociological issues like that, like you're actually perceiving things.
Well, they're confidence issues, but also you no longer hold blood in the penis the way you did when you were young. So, for example, you're 13 years old as a guy, and a girl gives you a peck on the cheek, and you hold her hand for 5 minutes. You got a hard on for an hour and a half. That doesn't happen when you're 30. That's just the way it is. And why is that? We just don't hold blood in our penis. And
as your age,
and as you get older, it gets even worse. It gets even worse. And so I'll draw an example to another part of the body. If I fly to Europe and spend 10 hours on a plane, my socks get a little tight, my rings get a little tight. That didn't happen when I was 25 years old. And why is that? Because my venous microvasculature is aging. Now, what does that mean in your penis? It means the blood is leaving your penis faster because it's the veins and the smooth muscle around the veins that holds the blood in the penis during erection. So if a guy's getting erect and then losing it, it's multifactorial. 1, you're aging. 2, there's often alcohol involved. 3, there might be, hey, you got a lot in your mind now. When you're 20 years old, you're not worrying about paying the mortgage.
Your mind's racing more than it did. You didn't think like that when you're 18, 20. You didn't think about anything.
Well, you don't think of anything. When you're 35 years old, it's different. Hey, I've got to pay a mortage. I got a
mortgage,
kid.
You got college
my
bills,
kid has a problem. My wife. I have problems at work. My business isn't going well. There's just more. There's more in your mind. And then of course there's alcohol, recreational drugs. But then there are 2 things that make things worse that we doctors do to people. We prescribe two classes of medication that interfere with the ability to optimize your sexual performance. One are antidepressants. The SRI antidepressants are really the cock and click killers.
They'll push it down.
And then there are a lot of there are antidepressants as well too. So for these guys, taking the pills, fine. Go ahead, take a pill. You pull more blood in. But what if you're getting an erection and losing it? The primary goal of therapy should be to keep the blood in. And that's where an erection ring works. And that's what I didn't understand, Phantom, 4 years ago.
That's actually what the physical ring does.
Exactly what the physical ring does. So this doctor, and I got into this for the data, and the data's can be potentially life-saving. And I'm confident that it'll take 3 to 5 years, but assessing your your blood flow in your penis just become part of the standard of care when you're
Standard
45 years old. I'm right now. I'm 73. If I went to a doctor for like a physical because I had a problem, and the doctor just told me, "Hey, you're good. Get out of here," I would think, "What the what the heck is this? 1900? I want an electrocardiogram. I want blood tests. I want things to be made objective." And now we have a way with our technology of making
Doing an assessment.
making it objective. Now but also what men need to understand is a ring is also a game changer. So there are 2 papers right now comparing our rings to 10 milligrams of tadalafil, Cialis, the most commonly prescribed erection pill, showing that in most men, the pill is no more effective than the ring. But what's most effective are both together. Women have vibrators. Now men, the research basically tells men, hey, put a ring on it and take a pill. Whether you have ED or don't have ED, you want to optimize your performance, put a ring on it and take a pill.
Do you get any resistance from men not wanting to wear rings, or do they just go for it because they say it's going to help them?
Men don't get it yet. There's a whole male pride thing. We have a joke. Next week I'm going to be the week after next. I'm going to be at the American Urologists Association big convention in DC. And I'll be able to tell the difference between a gay doctor and a straight doctor with one question. Do you use an erection ring or a cock ring? Gay doctor. They roll their eyes like you're crazy. Like, of course I do. Last night. Got a better one? Straight doctor. This is what a straight doctor does. Not me. I don't need it. Maybe some of my patients might need it. It's like Superman Kryptonite. Not me. But some of my patients might need that. Well, they just don't, they haven't, when someone tells me they're good, my point to them is, or they don't need it. My point to them is, well, do you want to be great? It's not about needs, but want. So, Phantom, I'm gonna ask you 5 questions.
Yeah.
Like you're okay. Do you want to get harder?
Yeah.
Of course. So, by compressing the superficial veins comfortably, our rings increase the girth by 3 to 5 millimeters. Now, no one's gonna walk by you, Phantom, and say, "Oh my God, man, porn star," or me. But that's more blood that you can hold in your penis with a hand, a mouth, vagina, etc. Okay, so you want to get harder. Good. That's point 1. Do you want to last longer?
Of course.
Of course. Do you want to be more confident? Meaning, hey, I can have a third cocktail, or I can stay up to 1 o'clock in the morning and dance for an hour and still perform. You want to be more confident, right?
Yeah, everyone.
Yeah. Do you want your partner to be more confident than you?
Oh, that's a no-brainer.
No-brainer. Okay, here's the last one. Do you want to have a more intense orgasm?
Well, I think every guy would, unless they aren't telling the truth.
And so guys should put a ring on it. So here's how do we produce a more intense orgasm in men? So again, I get into this for the data, but then realize that in order to collect data overnight, I have to reinvent the cock ring. Our rings are not these hard plastic O-rings that look, you got to have a hard on and it chokes off the blood flow. It's like lynching your dick. Who wants to fucking lynch their dick? Yeah. Ours are made out of a soft elastomer. They're comfortable, sit like that. And so they can be worn for long periods of time. They don't cut off the arterial flow. So how do we produce more intense orgasm? This thought came to me later on. It was the way we do that is by putting the right amount of pressure over the urethra right here in order to draw out the ejaculatory phase. Women have vibrators, and now men have a device that can produce more intense orgasms. So my goal was to increase the ejaculatory phase in the average man by 50%. So we tested on 28 men aged 28 to 70. My ejaculatory phase with our ring, comfortably adjusted, goes from 4 seconds to 7 seconds. And that's an incredible orgasm. And I don't have sex without a ring now. And 4 years ago, if you'd asked me about rings, I would have said, I don't need that. And now it's why have sex without it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's like a superficial thing that some men maybe don't like the outer look, or like the superficial nature of saying you need something to help you. Because men are kind of psychologically, they're being, I don't need anybody's help. I'm going to do it all by myself. I don't need anybody to tell me anything.
But most guys don't have ED. They're just getting older. Here, let me draw another analogy. Would you tell me approximately how old you are?
I'm 58.
Okay, 58. Phantom, Do you run as fast now as you did when you were 18?
No way.
Yeah, no way. Oh no, Phantom. You have RD. You have running dysfunction. And I'm really worried about you. You have a bad case of running dysfunction. We need to help you out. And I have a whole exercise program, supplement program, blah, 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 to fix you. Well, that's what we've done with erectile dysfunction. Yes, too many men are overweight. Too many men have poor eating habits, but you don't have ED. You just have a problem. And the answer is an effective, erection ring. And by the way, don't go running barefoot. It's going to hurt you.
Well, yeah, everybody knows that. You need the right shoes if you're gonna go be a runner.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm a cyclist, so I like the mountain bike, but like, like
You don't cycle. You don't mountain bike barefoot though. Oh
no,
no.
you wear your
have-
shoes with the
yeah.
with the clip
With
thing
clips,
in
yeah,
it,
of
you can
course,
click,
yeah.
all that stuff.
So guys you're right. Guys have a thing about being natural. There's a pride issue, but guys like it. We have a lot of 5-star testimonials, and I didn't. It's a change in mindset though, both for men, but also for the doctors. The doctors just think in pills. They're ignorant.
So how did you get this promoted to the patient?
It's been difficult because we don't have. I don't have the money for a paid advertising budget. So I speak to people like you. I mean, I've done a lot of podcasts. There were 7 published papers. If you go to our website, myfirmtech.com, you click on the science, go to the research section. There's 7 published papers. We go to Society of Sexual Medicine conferences, urology conferences, and we're gradually getting the word out.
Have you been able to get like I don't know, practices to actually like
there are over 80 doctors in the United States right now who are utilizing our devices. And why? Because it's more scientific. Just passing out pills is wrong. I mean, I'm gonna put it this way. I'll draw an analogy. Phantom, if you came to me and said, Dr. Justin, I'm really worried. When I go to the gym, my pulse is irregular. And I said to you, Phantom, that's interesting. You probably have a heart arrhythmia. Take this pill and come back in 6 months. You would think, what?
The
You're
magic,
not going to get an echo. You're not going to get an electrocardiogram. You're not going to get blood tests. But that's where we are with men's health, and it's really screwed up. With men's health, we are prescribing they're called PD5 medication, erection pills, without knowing whether the men have a heart problem, whether they have that diabetic problem. We just pass out.
Yeah, because a lot of men. I mean, I'm African American. I'm a type 2 diabetic. Been one since I was 27. So I mean, I have to consider that, and I'm doing the treatments to keep myself like my numbers, my A1Cs, and check. Like, so if you're getting the A1Cs that are like way over their number, that's probably going to be part of the reason why you can't keep having an erection. Like if you're not within like the 6, like 5 range, you're probably going to have problems, right?
Yep. I mean, almost all men, pretty much all men with poorly controlled diabetes have real erectile dysfunction. These aren't the guys who get up and lose it. These are guys who struggle to get up because diabetes impacts the penis in 2 different ways. One, it narrows the arteries, so you have insufficient blood flow into the penis, and then it also damages the nerves as well too. And God, years ago, I was working for a diabetes company doing research, and interviewed 35 female type 1, type 2 diabetics in their 30s. All of them were anorgasmic.
Yeah. So that's like a root cause. Right. It's if you have uncontrolled and your A1C is like out of whack, that's going to be like the primary thing. And trying to get pills or something, it's more probably important to like get your number in range.
Yes, yeah. and ideally get early signals. I mean, anecdotally, we have diabetic men buying our device, not so much to improve. Well, it's an erection ring and it helps them, but they're looking for signs of erectile dysfunction before it becomes signs. So I just think about I've got 2 guys who are type 1 diabetics, well controlled. Why do they use our ring? Because they're looking for signals before it becomes a problem.
They
you know,
want
they
to know like where they are. Like,
so I mean, one guy, this was about 7 or 8 months ago. He was well controlled, and then he just went off his diet. Went off his meds, and just he went from having 4 nocturnal erections, which is average for his age, which is good, down to 2 nocturnal erections, and that was kind of a kick in the shin for him. To like, my dick might stop working. I
gotta get back in line. I need to
gotta
actually
get back in line. Yeah, and he's doing well now. That was so
that's why people want to wear these wearables, because it gives you, like, in the same way that I'm wearing my, like a continuous glucose monitor. So I know where I am all the time, and then I know what the impact of my food is. I know what the impact of my exercise is, so I can know where I am instead of running blind and having to do the finger sticks. This is kind of giving people like, oh, I'm gonna know where I am.
Exactly. But
So does this go to your smartphone, or does it go to your computer?
Yeah.
How does it go?
Well, you can have it go to your computer, but we're in the Google and Apple stores. There's an app. It's Bluetooth enabled. The Bluetooth is off when it's on your dick because you don't want the radiation. We send notifications. It's smart. You can compare yourself. And with over 4,000 men in the database now, if you're between the ages of 35 and 65, you're comparing yourself to thousands of men. And you can see, am I above average, below average? Of course, we all want to be above average, don't we? So, and we send notifications as in, hey, Elliot, we're concerned. The duration of your nocturnal erections has gone down by 20% over the last month. Have there been any changes in your medications, et cetera, et cetera? Consider seeing a doctor. It could be, yo, Phantom, you're having twice as much sex now as you had 2 months ago. Way to go, dude.
That's cool. So you're giving people the information. It's really like, this is the information age, and the more information you have about your own body and your own health, the more you are in control of your destiny. If you're running blind, like you said, you don't drive your car with a blacked out windshield. You have no idea where you are. You don't have any situational awareness. You need to be like aware.
And it takes a few readings for it to be accurate. You just can't. It's not it's like blood pressure or sugar. Just one is not enough. So we recommend 3 to 4 nocturnal readings, and ideally 1 or 2 sex or soul or with a partner or solo readings in order to establish a
good
pattern.
Yeah. So you need to be it's like any kind of testing. Like you gotta be consistent. You gotta have good data. You don't want the outliers. So you gotta have. I'm a data guy. I'm just a disclosure. I work on software. I'm a software guy. I'm in a startup. It's more financial stuff, but I understand software development and like how apps work or how applications or systems work. So I understand like you got to have a good sample to have something statistically mean anything.
Exactly.
So you got a pretty good number. Like you said, it was like 4,000 or more, right?
It's a huge database. When we launched this company at CS about 3.5 years ago, we had 1,200 erections, and probably 25% of them were mine. So the data was not as valuable then as it is now, because we just we didn't have the large database that we have, and the database gets larger every day.
Is that just like U.S. or is outside the U.S.?
We're international.
International. So you got other people, other countries.
Correct. Yeah.
So you get a good distribution. It's not just the U.S.
Exactly.
And what about the age distribution? Do you got a lot more people that are older, or do you have a mix?
Well, the average age is in the early 50s of the men who use it. We have, they're probably like 100 or so men, maybe 200 men under the age of 30, and there are a handful of guys in their 80s. And the guys in their 80s are role models. Some of these guys are having a lot of sex around that.
Well, you hope if you're retired, you're a little bit relaxed and you're not hyped out.
It's been it's been a lot of fun talking to people, because there are people who we think about. A lot of people think that sex kind of ends
when you're
if you're motivated and you have a motivated partner. It doesn't end.
Doesn't have to end. It's just it's like a mind state. I'm a creative, right? I've run into like, like a blues musician, Delta blues musician. They're like 80 and they're still kicking it. And again, some young kid who says it's all over at 23. And they got the
Well,
80-year-old playing every day in like Louisiana. And it's like this other kid's like he thinks it's over. And I'm like, how is it over? You're 23.
he's probably thinks it's over because he hasn't made enough money yet. But there's one guy who's 82 who is one of our most active, sexually active guys in the data set.
That's cool. Well, it's good to know that you don't have to. It's not over. Like I always go, oh, it's over. You get older. It's like nothing. You can't be happy. Like I run into I said, I'm a mountain biker. I run into these like 70-year-old, 80-year-old mountain bikers, and the
Sure.
young guys like, what are he doing on the trail? It's like,
Well,
can I know how to ride the bike?
think about the benefits of regular sex. People don't think about this, but if men and women who have sex every day decrease their cortisol level by up to 50%, the stress hormone.
Mm-hmm.
That's better. It's more of an impact than any supplement. It's more of an impact than cardio exercise.
Wow.
I mean, if we doctors were going to be honest with people, we should be recommending, hey, an orgasm a day keeps the doctor away. Then there's a large study out of the United Kingdom showing that men who have sex, men in their 70s who have sex 3 times a month as opposed to less than 1 time a month, decrease their risk of cardiovascular death by 50% over the next decade. Well, we should be telling people to have more sex, shouldn't we? And then there's a social impact. We know that couples in committed relationships that have sex 3 times a week versus less than 3 times a month have half the separation rate. And we know about the devastating impact of divorce and separation on mental health, physical health, plus the health of the children. I mean, obviously people can't successfully single parent, but the data is so strong showing that the children of people in a committed relationship are less likely to drop out of school. They're less likely to be alcoholics. They're less likely to commit gun violence, less likely to do drugs. If we had a smart government, they'd be saying, hey, we can save a lot of money on Medicaid and Medicare if people would just have more sex.
Yeah, well, the problem with the argument is like from a sociological standpoint, like the social mores and all the morals of it, like people so get caught up in wherever they are from whatever ideology they have, and then they start putting like a label on something. So sex is not. It's like we always put sex at this level. It's like this thing. Oh, you shouldn't do it, but maybe you should. It's a forbidden fruit type of thing. And if you normalize it, like what you're talking about is like normalizing something that society tends to not want to normalize. And that goes into the sociological and psychological aspects of that. But people have been like fighting that.
I know. I live in Montana, and I live south of Bozeman. Bozeman's a really fit, outdoor-oriented town. And I go to a gym where there are a lot of athletes, and because people know what I'm doing, they'll ask me they'll talk about their problems, sexual problems or marriage problems. What I'm struck by is the fact that people won't plan for pleasure. They rely too much on spontaneity, and and then there's so many reasons not to, especially if you're losing confidence in your relationship or your sexual performance, there's some reason to put it off. But let me draw an analogy, Fent. I'm a really good chef. If you were to come to visit my house, I wouldn't like, oh my God, he's here. What am I going to serve for dinner? What's in the refrigerator? No, I would want to please you, so I would plan a meal. I'd have appetizers, I'd have main course, I'd have dessert. I'd think about the wine or liquor that I'm going to serve. I would plan. I don't understand why. And then so I go to the gym and people have their whiteboard, or they have on their phone they've got 3 hours worth of exercises all planned out. And I said, well, why don't you take some of that planning and just apply it to your
sexual wellness, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And things have gotten awkward. We do all have a date night, and then they have a date night. They drink too much. And they fight, because they've fallen out of intimacy. I have a few couples where we've been playing for pleasure. You were right. Now we got back into it.
You got to make it part of your life. Where it's like the problem is people have all these things. Like they got the mortgage, they got the kids. The kids take priority. all the kids' sports activities take priority, your job takes priority, all these things take priority other than the relationship. So you kind of get pulled into all these things that are so-called more important. But then we got a 50% divorce rate. So it seems like it's important.
Yeah. Well, and frankly, that's where the rings are so valuable. At both extremes. So we've had 3 couples that we're aware of, 3 men whose wives bought them the TechRing, who were attributing their sexual problems to their relationship. But it was the men had significant cardiovascular problems. Got so significant they got cardiac catheterizations. At the other extreme, we've had 4 men that we're aware of who thought they needed a penile implant. Not needed, because they were having good nocturnal erections, good duration and firmness and number. But there were issues in the relationship that were producing their problem. We've had 2 young guys. One guy had an adrenal tumor in the 20s. Another guy had the ring showed him that the anabolic steroids he was taking for his bodybuilding were making him impotent.
Yeah, that's one thing.
and then there's the value of the ring for right dosing testosterone. TRT has become really popular, and a lot of men need it. We for whatever reason, probably it's dietary. We're having an epidemic of low testosterone. Well, what's the right dose? So what the doctors do, what we doctors do is wrong, is we say, oh, Phantom, you're 53 years old. You're below average. We're going to give you a dose that will get you to average for your age. Well, Phantom, I'm looking at you, man. You want to be a stud. You don't want to be average for your age. You want to be at least the 90th percentile. You want an A-, right? Yeah. So we can now target that utilizing. We now say, okay, we want your nocturnal erections, which are to be of the duration, firmness and number that put you in the 90th percentile for your age. Similarly, when it comes to guys who are low T, complain about how, I just don't want it anymore. I've got 4 guys like this I'm taking care of right now in their 40s. They're in their 40s. One guy's in his 30s. And their complaint is, I just, 10 years ago, I want sex all the time, and now I want sex like 3 or 4 times a month.
Not interested, yeah.
The question the doctors ask is, how's your libido? What the fuck does libido mean?
What does it mean?
That's how I approach it. I say, well, how many times a week are you initiating sex? What's your goal? Now, obviously, if a guy tells me, I want to initiate sex 5 times a day, it's like, hey, you're 43 years old. That ain't happening. But if your goal is to go from initiating sex 3 or 4 times a month to initiating sex 3 or 4 times a week, that can be done with testosterone in combination with optimizing nocturnal blood flow. In combination with some of these guys are just so at it, they need to get to benefits of addition. There are other factors, but
yeah.
But with data, you can start to make things objective.
Yeah, well, data is like you've been saying all along. Data is the key, and now you actually have a device that actually gives you valid scientific data. So you're not running blind,
Yeah, my goal is to drag, push, and pull with research, urology and andrology, men's sexual health, into the 21st century of objective, actionable care. Most importantly, recognize that we are all in N of 1. So one of the mistakes that we doctors make, we treat everyone as if they're one size fits all. I mean, here you and I. I'm 73. Pick on you and me. I'm 73 years old. You're 53. We're different races, different physical condition, et cetera, et cetera. Probably take different medications, et cetera. If we had high blood pressure, the doctors would stupidly put us on the same pill, the same dose. Well, that's dumb.
Yeah.
What they should do is tell us, hey, Phantom, hey, Elliot, I'm going to put you on this pill. Now get a blood pressure cuff. Take a morning reading and evening reading. Get back to me in 2 weeks. Now let's see if it's the right pill for you. Let's see if it's the right dose for you, because we're all different. So that's what this TechRing for your sexual health does as well too. You are now an N of 1. We are all going to respond. Maybe the right dose of tadalafil Cialis for me is 5 milligrams, and for you is 15. But we don't know it without data. We're just throwing around pills.
That's the problem. Is like this, the whole world. Because I'm in IT and with AI and a lot of the tech that we're dealing with in robotics and stuff, it's all about customization. And it kind of is like a retreat. If you go back to before the Industrial Revolution, you had all these artisans that everything was not standard. Everything was kind of customized. Now with this new tech between the automation and the AI, right, and the robotics, you could actually start to have like mass produced like individuality. Like you could have things that actually customize to the nth degree coming off these assembly lines because the tech can actually do that. You could build an assembly line that every product coming off of it is significantly different than not all the Model T. So it's the same thing with like healthcare. You probably need to actually know what the dose should be for the individual, even down maybe to DNA level, like you know what that
Yes,
person is.
that's exactly right, and that's where we're going. But we need smart wearables in order to take us there. Because
Yeah, that's smart. You're on the
we
cutting
need
edge.
more than just one isolated data point in a doctor's office. Then we need to assess what's going on. You know, doctors don't even ask the right questions. So when it comes to ED, the key question that every doctor should ask is your problem getting it up, or is your problem keeping it up? They don't ask that question. They just pass out a pill. They don't even. Doctors don't even ask routinely about someone's sexual health. I've never had a doctor ask me about sexual health. Ever. My wife has never had a doctor ask her about her sexual health. Ever.
Do you think it's like because the insurance companies that the doctors like are aligned with don't like doing diagnostic tests?
No, I think it's because I think it's about they haven't figured out how to make money from it.
Or maybe that's they don't want to do it because it costs them money.
Well, the Epic is a leading electronic health record in the United States. That's the name of the company. And there are no questions about sexual health in that. Now, if you had chest pain, there are a whole bunch of questions to ask. They'll direct you to rule out rule out other conditions. And all these rule outs lead to income being generated for the hospital, for the doctors. I mean, the gain for the insurance companies when it comes to sexual health would be that actually with data, most men probably don't need the pills that they're taking.
Well, yeah, so they save money on
So
the
they save money. So we're working on that. We're going to work on that angle. But the first thing,
you got to sell it.
The doctors have to ask the question. The doctors have to ask the questions. So here's how it works in healthcare. If you're my patient, I make money by examining a certain number of systems. And doctors, by the way, lie about this all the time. I got to ask about your cardiovascular system, your pulmonary system, your gastrointestinal system, your urinary tract, et cetera, et cetera. And the more systems I assess with questions, the more money I can make. If there was a box to check for, I got to ask his questions about sexual health. The doctors would ask those questions, and they would.
It'll become like an income. It becomes an income like stream.
Exactly, but that's not. We're not there yet.
Yeah, so you just got to get the whole bureaucracy of like how those questions get on the questionnaire, to how they actually get paid for, how to get reimbursed. That whole structure has to get in line. So that seems like, that's like a structural change to the process.
The big structural change, and in fact, is this device. This device, the smartphone, is smarter than every doctor in the world for 99% of the problems. This is how we should access healthcare. This device doesn't lie. It doesn't claim to examine things it doesn't really examine. This device will ask all the right, programmed to ask all the right questions, and to treat you as an individual as opposed to just part of a group. It's moving healthcare onto this device that's going to take healthcare into the 21st century, because we don't actually need doctors for most of our problems.
Yeah, well, if you have the right type of wearables or like in-house like testing equipment, so you can actually get a full blood draw, you can get accurate readings, then you don't have to go in.
Hey, right now, when it comes to like X-rays, you can get an X-ray at home done by a robot. It's not commercialized yet. It's coming.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see people having like an X-ray robot or having like a blood draw robot that does the full blood draw. So you get the full labs that you need whenever you need them, instead of having to go get up in your car, go to the lab, get the doctor to get you the right lab.
Right.
And half the time you don't know what to ask for unless you start doing research on your phone. It's like, what test do I need? Like my daughter, she had to go and do a lot of research on her phone and asked for a specific test that they weren't doing. And then when they did it, they said, "Oh, now we found something." Like, well, you guys didn't think to do that. You're the doctors.
Well, then again, we are delivering to people the world's first smart wearable for men's sexual health. Here's the female device we're coming out with.
Oh, wow.
This
So
year.
it does the same type of analysis. It does the same type of thing.
Same type of thing. We're born overnight. We're measuring nocturnal clitoral erections because women have them as well too. Their duration and their firmness, and with the information, women will be able to assess the impact of diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, medications, alcohol, drugs, relationships upon their sexual health. And that sexual health is also a reflection of the cardiovascular health. So we are changing the world of urology and gynecology.
Well, I think it's super important for people to kind of get over their hangups when it comes to like people getting to work. There are probably people because of this episode, because of some of the words you used, they will ignore the whole episode.
I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't.
No, I'm just saying there are some folks that are like that. So if you, even when you're trying to give information, if they're so primed by triggers, if they hear a word that they don't hear, that's not normalized, like, because we haven't normalized sexuality. So anytime you talk about certain terms, some folks get bent out of shape. You know, I might even get some folks, "Oh, why did you talk about that?" I said, "Well, because I like to give out information. I like people to talk about things that need addressed, and this need to be addressed, so I don't really care." I mean, I tag it as an explicit episode, so you know. But the fact is, like, if you see it's tagged as explicit and you still have a problem, it's like, that's not on me.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to apologize if I've offended anyone, because actually this information is really important.
I'm not. I'm just saying that is the society the way it is. I just like, I actually have to tag it as explicit because of that. You know, you could think like, well, that's really human. That's human sexuality. It's part of our normal behavior. Why do I have to tag that? But you make me tag it. Like the distribution companies that I put my podcast through will say, "Oh, you gotta tag that," or they'll tag it. Like, that's just the way they are.
Yeah, well, it's unfortunate.
But you know, I think it's super important that we had this discussion. We do have your QR code up. So if people understand that, you take your phone and you scan it, that will bring you right to your FirmTech website, myfirmtech.com. If people go there, what do they find there?
Well, if you're interested in science, click on the science button, and then click on research, and you'll see all the validating. You see how our technology is being utilized by researchers around the world to investigate every proposed intervention for men's sexual health: shockwave therapy, Botox injections, PRP, right dosing testosterone, identifying, distinguishing between psychological causes of erectile dysfunction and physical causes of erectile dysfunction, and demonstrating the value of the rings to optimize all men's performance by producing longer lasting, harder erections. So people can now get smarter and harder in the 21st century with a smart wearable.
Well, I think that's great that we've been able to talk about this, and you providing this evaluation and the technology for people to kind of have their own kind of like review of their health. I think it's super important for people to take charge of their own healthcare, and you're giving folks a tool for men and women. The woman tool is coming. So I think that's super cool that you're looking at everybody. And I think that's an interesting story. Maybe later, when that's more out there in the world, we can talk about that in another episode. But I want to thank you for being a guest on the Phantom Electric Ghost podcast today.
Thank you so much. That was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. Have a great night.